I've been speedrunning for several months now and have tried many games in that time. However, one game in particular has stood out to me and has quickly become my most run game, and that game is Heroes of the Storm. Once I realized how good the game was for speedrunning and how enjoyable it was, I made a post on the Heroes of the Storm subreddit in an effort to convince people to try running the game. Since then, the community has grown quite a bit and we've received quite a few skilled runners. However, I was ultimately unhappy with my original explanation of the game and its run. So I decided to make this video where I'll go a bit more in depth in my explanation and explain why you should run Heroes of the Storm. But for those of you who don't know much about Heroes of the Storm, here's a short primer. HOTS is a MOBA-style multiplayer game by Blizzard Entertainment. Its speedrun largely centers around player versus enemy games, where the objective is to win a match as quickly as possible, either with a team or by yourself. Most modes do not include any enemy units, so they play as a 1v0 in an otherwise empty server. The game has 4 main categories, which all have unique rule sets, strategies, and playstyles: Class percent, Solo IL, Team IL, and Tutorial percent. Class percent is an umbrella category for 4 individual categories, one for each of the 4 character classes: Specialist, Assassin, Tank, and Support. Regardless of class, runners utilize a character that falls into the specific class in question and must complete a set of 3 maps in the lowest amount of time possible. Map and character choice is instrumental in a good run and allows for a great deal of optimization. The existence of many subcategories within class percent allows for a great deal of variety and removes the issue of a single character being completely dominant and being the only character worth running. Since each class plays differently, runners must discover which character is best within their own class, and this creates a wide amount of variety between subcategories. For example, Support percent is far more about doing consistent siege damage, while Specialist percent is about pushing while keeping as many creeps alive as possible. Both of which are far different from Assassin percent, where the objective is to capture siege mercenaries as soon as possible and then focus on wave clear. These may be simplistic examples, but they hold true nonetheless. Both solo and team IL runs are split up by map so that every map has their own unique IL runs. Solo IL runs are quite a bit more straightforward than class percent runs, in that runners must beat a single map using a character of their choice. This run really comes down to optimal movement, as character choice isn't really a choice at all. Sylvanas is really the only character worth using, since her current passive ability, Black Arrows, makes almost any other character obsolete. Team IL runs, on the other hand, are all about team comp. Having access to an additional 4 characters means that you'll want to find an optimal combination of tanks, wave clear, and siege damage in order to push consistently and effectively. This mode is by far the most difficult to optimize, as there are far more decisions that need to be made in order to find an optimal team composition. The tutorial run is considerably shorter than the other runs, being only a few minutes long compared to the nearly 15 minutes that most class percent categories take. Since the run is so short, most of the optimization comes from doing perfectly optimal damage on the first 2 sections and executing precise timings and pathing on the final section. While this category isn't too popular, it's actually quite a good run for those who aren't as familiar with MOBAs or those who enjoy a short, concise run. Heroes of the Storm also has a lot of variety due to patches, changes, and updates, especially in class percent and team IL categories. However, old runs which become impossible due to changes are planned to be cleaned out and moved to a legacy category by the mods. This means that while a patch might make some strategies lost to time, if it does happen, runners won't be permanently locked out from having a world record, as that can be discouraging for new players and kind of frustrating overall. The fact that aspects of the game are constantly changing can be both positive and negative, depending on the player. Some runners love the fact that the game and runs are different week to week, and it keeps things from becoming stale. But others can become frustrating, as it's really impossible to have a perfect run, or to perfectly optimize a run fully, as a strategy which is dominant one month might be useless the next. Keep this in mind when you choose to start running. An interesting aspect of the subcategory system is that certain categories are easier for beginners than others. For example, I would heavily suggest starting with tank percent or support percent when you're first starting out, as they are relatively straightforward and simple when it comes to the strategy of the run, and it's fairly difficult to die. Once you're more comfortable, it might be a good idea to try Assassin percent or Specialist percent, as the line between success and failure is far thinner in those categories. While some might dislike how easy it is to die in something like Assassin percent, it keeps the game exciting for viewers and more experienced players, so it's overall a positive experience. If you do decide to speedrun Heroes of the Storm, or would just like more info on the run, I would first suggest you watch a few of my runs of the game, as I don't really know of anyone else who does commentary of their runs explaining what they're doing. A personal favorite of mine is my Zul'jin Assassin % run, so I'll link that one down below. It's a touch outdated and is no longer the world record, as I found Phoenix to be more optimal for the category, but it was really fun to record and I have some solid commentary that might help explain the run. Afterwards, I'd suggest you watch Sponson's run with Sonya on Tank %, so I'll link that below as well. They didn't add any notes or commentary, but it's a pretty amazing run and I'm sure you'll be able to learn from it regardless. After that, I just suggest you continue watching runs of characters you're interested in or world record runs. Hopefully you enjoy yourself, even if you decide not to run the game. To conclude, let's recap the pros and cons of Heroes of the Storm as a speedrun game, so that you can decide if it's the right game for you. First off, HOTS has a fairly wide selection of categories, ranging from co-op to single player. However, the offset of this is that since all the categories are to simply win in the lowest amount of time possible, if you dislike MOBAs or HOTS as a whole, it's unlikely that you'll find its speedrun very entertaining at all. All the categories are relatively short, which makes practice easier and far less tedious than some other games. While many other games with short runs end up stale, as after hundreds of runs it's easy to become bored, this is solved by constant patches, updates, and the additions of new characters and maps, which means that each month will be far different than the last. This could be considered a negative, however, if you're the type of runner who likes creating a perfectly optimal run, as doing so in 1 month could be quite difficult. I would heavily suggest you look into speedrunning Heroes of the Storm if you're into MOBAs, if you enjoy co-op based games, if you enjoy games which are constantly being updated and don't mind that updates might affect your strategies, or if you simply enjoy short runs which can be practiced multiple times back to back. Hopefully, this video has given you a better idea of what the Heroes of the Storm speedrun entails and whether or not you'd like to run it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below in the comments, as I'd love to assist in clarifying. If you'd like to see more videos in the future, click my logo on screen to subscribe. And if you really enjoyed the video, feel free to share it so that others can join in the discussion as well. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.